All right, everyone, welcome
Good
back.
morning.
For Wednesday, I have a special guest. Her name is Debbie. And this is special to me because I'm bringing you guys somebody that is really a part of my life. Debbie was my realtor in my process. I'm so excited. So today we are going to be talking about my journey of how we picked my fixer-upper. And you guys asked a couple questions, so Debbie is so kind enough to answer those questions. So let's jump right in. Okay, so let's share about how we even connected. I think that for me, this is the biggest purchase I've made in my entire life, more than $500,000. It's my biggest purchase. So for me, it's very important that I have someone that I trust. So let's share with everybody how we got started. How did you connect with my mom? Because that's how really the origin began.
Well, I believe it was through your aunt and uncle that I originally was introduced to you. And then I was referred, I guess, through your aunt and uncle because your mom and dad were planning on buying.
Yeah.
And so I think that's how we originally met. But yeah, referral business, that's always key. It's always a ring in your ear, you know, for a real estate agent is to get referrals because you really develop a relationship, not only with the client, but with the family.
Okay, so you were referred there. And then my parents, I remember, were looking for a home while I was in college. So that was like 2013, 14, but they actually bought a home in 2015 with you, which is the one we currently still live in. And then our relationship continued because I didn't really meet you during that time because I was at college. Right. But when you worked with my brother, EJ, to buy his first home, that's when I was a part of the journey of actually going to house hunting with you guys. That's when I actually met you in person. And he bought his home in 2019.
That's right.
Yes. Yeah. And then just seeing his journey allowed me to really believe it's possible because he bought it when he was, what, 26, 27? And
I don't know. He was, but he was pretty focused, which I find your family gets, you know, is very good because it gives me more definition in terms of what you are looking for. So he was very specifically looking for a new home.
Okay. Yeah. And that's what he got. He ended up with a new home. So when you first meet individuals, do you go over a checklist of like things they need to have in order to be able to even start looking? Or what is your process when you first meet with a client to make sure they're ready to buy a home?
Well, and you brought up a really good point. I mean, when you're looking for a home, just like when you're buying anything, you need to know what your purchasing power is.
Okay.
And that's the number one, because especially in this market, we're in a very competitive, what we call a seller's market. So buyers, there are a lot of buyers out there. And so to be competitive and to get the sellers to select your offer over anybody else's offer, they want to know that you're financially capable of going through the transaction, right? So there's nothing worse than a seller tying up a property with someone only to find out they couldn't afford it. So that's the number one step. And so that would be number one. Number two is kind of determining what are your goals. You know, trying to define what your wants versus your needs are and prioritizing those. I loved it when we first met at the house, I believe, where was that in? The fixer.
Yes, it was the fixer-upper. And
I remember you brought this beautiful vision. I called it vision board, but it was
Rodeo.
It was Crockett.
Rodeo.
Okay. That area, but I just loved when I met with you and I knew, you know, right away that you were focused. And I think that's the biggest thing that I can advise for anybody looking for a home is, what is it that you're looking for? You know, what do you, and you had it all laid out. You knew what the doors are going to look like. You knew what the bathroom was going to look like. I just was so amazed. I had never, honestly, in my 40 plus years of real estate, I've never had anyone do that. And I thought, this girl knows what she's doing. So yeah, I thank you for that. And it helped. And, thinking about, should we buy a home that's move-in ready, which is a lot of millennials, quite frankly, they want a move-in ready home.
Yeah.
Or do you want something that's going to add value, and you can create this vision that you have, this home. And when you have all the baby boomers are now downsizing, and maybe they've all their children, now they have grandchildren, so they all want to like move into a smaller home. And there's a great opportunity for millennials to take homes that are maybe built in the 70s and update it and make it look like it was brand new. So, and that's what you did, or that's what you're doing.
Yes, that's what I'm doing. It's so crazy. I thought that I forgot, but I kind of forgot that our first house walkthrough on our journey was a fixer upper. And I came to you with exactly, and to have a full circle, that actually ended up with a fixer upper after all of the homes that we looked at over the year and a half of our home searching journey.
And it became frustrating, because I remember, there are a lot of times when we just said, oh, this market is too crazy. I don't want to be competing with, 5, 10, 15, 20, 100, people on a house. And, but that's what made you competitive, because there are very few buyers like you who want to take something and, and work on it and create something. There are tons of buyers. So when, houses like that, they do come up, they may not come up that often. And they're usually houses that, maybe investors are looking for. So you're going to get a lot of competition, maybe from investors, but investors can't really afford to compete with you because of the special financing that you have available. And, unfortunately, Tom can't be here with us today, but I think, we can have a separate maybe conversation about that.
Yeah, and Tom is the broker that I chose to go with. Tom and Debbie are a tag team. And so all my financing stuff went straight to Tom, and we just all was able to always talk and be on one accord, which is awesome.
And that's important, when you're buying a home, make sure that the people that you choose to work with are a team and communicate together, because there's so many nuances to the transaction, contracts and negotiations. And if the end goal is to get you that home, that dream home, you got to have people that are communicating with each other. So a team is like that. I mean, it's just puts you at its complete advantage over most people.
So you have been in real estate 40 years plus.
Mm-hmm.
So please share how you got
started when I was 5. No.
I love it. Please share about how you got started and what regions you cover in the Bay Area or in Northern California.
Yeah, I'm originally from Chicago. I moved here and began a career in commercial real estate. So that was back in the late 80s. And I, kind of evolved over time, got in corporate real estate, and probably right before the Great Recession, I took a chance and I got into residential real estate. And that was a real journey for me, because it was a more emotional decision-making process. And but on the flip side of that, it was also more relationship oriented, and which I really enjoyed, because it was kind of from start to finish. You develop the relationship, and it's a funny analogy, and I don't know if you want to.
Yes, please share.
Is that or not? But there's a funny analogy about the only business that a real estate agent can compare to, in terms of doing everything from soup to nuts. So imagine you're a restaurant owner, and you greet the people that pull up, you park their car, you welcome them to your restaurant, you give them a seat, you give them menus, you go back to the kitchen, you bring them the water, so I mean, you're going every step of the way, you're taking care of your clients, and then you take their orders, you bus the table, you get their cars. So it's just this whole, life cycle of a transaction that there's probably no other business beside a restaurant owner doing that. Can you imagine? So I just feel like this was a very fulfilling aspect of real estate. And because I'm happy to see people like you who, right? You have this dream and it came true. And you're still on that journey, and there's still things that need to be done with the house. But I think in the end, it's going to set you apart. You're learning what you learned in the last 6 months to a year, is so invaluable for your future. Yeah.
I agree. Okay. Well, thank you for sharing how you got started. What regions do you cover?
So I'm licensed in the state of California, so I cover the whole state, but I primarily focused in Northern California. So I've done transactions pretty much in every aspect or every region of the Bay Area. So, and also Sacramento now. So I'm also in the Sacramento area.
Okay.
So it doesn't, as a real estate agent, I'm a part of a company called Remax Gold, which is the largest privately held real estate franchise in the world, actually. So certainly, I have I have networks that I can refer people to, for whatever area or specialty that you could be looking for. So that's one of the advantages of working for them.
Let's just share a little bit about how, when you saw this, because you were the first one to see this home. And this was around August, September of 2021.
Yes.
We were looking at a townhome in Green Valley for me that we loved.
Right. Right.
We actually put an offer in for that townhome, and we were in pretty good. We were pretty good competition for anybody that was going in for that one. We were good competition. But you saw this home. So when you saw this home, share with me and the viewers, what made you think of me?
Well, remember, I mean, I got to preview this house before it went on the market. And Tom and I actually went to the house, and we have other investors that look for flips, and this looked like a flip opportunity. And then when we got there, we looked around and went like, this is not, they're not going to sell it for the price that it would make sense for an investor to buy it. And I said, it's going to take somebody who wants this to be their home. And I said, Priscilla, because we had met at that first home. And you had come full circle. I mean, you had literally come full circle, because you were like, I am done with the flip market. You had an opportunity, I think it was a family friend that we were trying to get, but we lost it to an investor.
Yes.
And, a lot of sellers don't understand the 203K renovation program, because they think, it's going to tie me up, and it's going to take longer, and I'm going to get less money. They actually get more money because an investor is going to discount it heavily for the unknowns. And with an FHA 203K renovation loan, you have contractors and consultants that go in and do a thorough inspection of the home and identify almost everything that needs to be done. And mostly focusing on health and safety items. But that is a very comprehensive, and because of the financing package that you have, because you're only putting 3.5% down, you're able to have more purchasing power than an investor. The disadvantage is it takes a little bit longer, but if, at the end of the day, if a seller is willing to wait maybe, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks more and get maybe 10% more it's probably worth it to them.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And so just the education or, explaining that, because it's program's been around for a long, long time, but very few people actually take advantage of it. So.
Got it. And then
And you're doing a great thing. You're doing a great thing by, sharing this, because.
Yeah, I'm trying to, because it is very, very, I think just real estate in total is just very intimidating, because like I said, it's the biggest purchase I've ever made. And
Right.
so
For most people it is. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's just, if you don't deep dive in it every day and hang out with people who talk about it all day long,
Right.
there's a lot of stuff that I just don't know. I'm just ignorant to. So anything that I learned, I want to share and give as much as I can, just so that somebody else can have a head start and somebody else can win. Because I know other people can do what I did, and do it better, if not, you know what I mean? So why not? And just to share about my journey, guys, I did use the FHA program. I just did the 203K, which allowed me to have a renovation portion on my loan.
Yeah, it was a 203K renovation loan that you did, so that you bought the house as is. It was in pretty bad shape. I don't know if you've ever shown your followers pictures of it, but
yes, I've shown a few. Yeah.
So it's in pretty bad shape. So instead of you having to take money out of your own savings or borrow money, you were able to incorporate the acquisition of the house plus the renovation all in one loan. And so that's what they call a 203K renovation loan. Those are pretty cool, pretty nice option for a lot of people that, maybe they can't afford to do the renovation. I mean, what was your budget for your renovation on this house? It was 130, 150?
Yeah, it was 150. It's 152.
Yeah. So how many people have that money?
I don't have it sitting in the bank account able to source. I don't.
Yeah. So that was great. I mean, it's a risk though. I mean, you have a house that, it's got a lot of work. It's going to take you 6 months to renovate. But in the end, I think it's going to be just gorgeous. And it's a Napa. I mean, wow.
Yes. And then I know that a lot of people see this method used for like an investment strategy. Unfortunately, I'm just gonna be transparent. Mine isn't really like a flip investment strategy, because I'm gonna live in it.
Right.
So mine is not as a short-term goal. Mine is like a long-term run goal.
Yeah. Well, in FHA financing, it has to be your primary residence to qualify. And I think it's a year, I believe, that you must live in the home. But that doesn't mean that you can't, do other things.
Correct. When I first got started, I had financial hiccups, and Tom and I worked together.
Right.
I had to get a credit, or I didn't have to, because there was an option of me waiting a year and billing history, because I wasn't paying bills around my parents' house. I didn't have any billing history. I could do that, which I had the time for technically, because we started in July of 2020. We ended December 2021. We had the year. But I wanted to speed up the process by doing the other option of getting a credit card and actually building a credit score.
Right.
What would be the other top 3 hangups that you see when you deal with a buyer that holds up the process? So we know, like, credit score, having a good credit score. Right now, I believe it's 580 and above, correct? Well, I don't know if that's good, but like
well, I mean, there are programs out there for, I'm not a mortgage broker, so I'm not going to respond to that. But there are, talk to your favorite mortgage broker, and they will give you an idea. But like I said earlier, first step, get pre-qualified. That'll save you a lot of time and trouble, because you don't want to be looking at everything. You want to be focusing on what you can accomplish. Okay. I think that, understanding, what is your why is another big one. What is it that makes you feel that buying a home is important to you? Because it's a commitment. Like in everything in life, there are advantages and disadvantages. There's advantages to renting. Some people maybe are not in a space or time in their life where they can make a commitment because maybe they're going to be relocated. So, if your job is kind of uncertain and you don't know from, 1 month to the next where you're going to be based, you might want to rent. It's easier to rent than to buy a house. The other thing too is that, it's funny. I heard a survey that, I think 20% of the millennials, their reason for buying a house, what would you think it would be?
I honestly don't know, because I don't know many millennials that own homes.
Well, the number one reason, and this is so funny to me, but I can understand it because I'm a dog person, is they want a dog. That was the number one reason.
I would have never fathomed, because I'm not a dog person. So I would have never fathomed.
They want a dog because, maybe they're not ready to start a family, but they want a dog, and it's hard to have a dog in California in an apartment, right? So that was the number one reason, a dog in a yard. So, I mean, whatever your why is, I'm not criticizing that, but, if it's important to you, then that's it. So, owning property is also kind of, you have more control over your destiny.
Okay.
Because, with renting, rents go up. And, you don't know if the owner, say, for example, you are renting a house and all of a sudden the owner decides, I'm selling the house, right? And so now now I've got to find another place. So it's very disruptive. It probably takes the average person 6 months to a year to get settled in, really.
Right.
Right. And by that time, your lease is up. So with owning a home, not to mention all the other tax and, advantages and things like that, but with owning a home, typically, especially if you're doing a fixed rate loan, you're rent, or quote unquote rent, but your mortgage payment is flat,
Yeah.
So you can plan better. So it really just depends where you are in your life, but you just compare, keep in mind when you're comparing the cost of owning a home versus renting, there are things that people don't really appreciate, especially if they've never owned a home. There are HOA fees potentially, there's services, trash and all these other things that may not even come to your mind when you're renting, because everything, the repairs on the house. Are you in a position where if something breaks, you can replace it, So there's all these things that you need to think about. But I would say for the most part, though, most of the wealth in this country has been built on real estate. And there's a reason for that. It's not replaceable. I mean, in a way, it's really, there's only a limited number of homes available. And that number is dwindling with population growth. So, owning a piece of real estate generally in the long run, and I'm not saying if you're gonna sell a house in 2 years, you're not going to recover your investment. If you're, the average break-even point for a homeowner is 5 to 7 years. So if you don't feel like you're going to be living in the area for, less than or more than 5 years, that financial component comes into play, and you have to make an adjustment based on your needs and wants.
That's good to know. So for someone that is in the Bay Area, and we know the Bay Area is super expensive. So a lot of my peers, well, one peer specifically wrote in and asked, is it worth being a homeowner? Which you just kind of talked about, everything has a pro and con, but is it possible to be a homeowner in the Bay Area? Saying that the young couple probably only makes $75,000, $80,000 together as a couple, or even as a single person, $75,000, $80,000. Is it really possible to live in a decent neighborhood? Because I know everything's possible, but
it all depends. I mean, there are all different types of real estate. Maybe a single family home is not something that would be affordable, but maybe a condo, or maybe some other type of home would be affordable. So it really just depends on the person. But I wouldn't be discouraged, thinking, I hear a lot of that. I hear a lot of people go, oh, I can't afford it. well, can you afford the rent? Right? You got to live somewhere. I mean, camping is not going to be like a growing trend.
It's San Francisco. We don't know.
Yeah, it could be. But
yeah,
but yeah. So I mean, you have to. The home is like one of the basic needs. So whether you rent or own, it just depends again on your finances and your. Maybe you get a roommate. Maybe there's other options that you can consider if you don't think that you can afford it. But you have to live somewhere.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah.
Just to encourage anybody, I am able to make my mortgage on my own, but I'm definitely doing a suggestion that Debbie just said, getting a roommate, because we do live in the Bay Area at the end of the day. And if I have the wiggle room, the mental space, the capacity to live with someone else, I'm going to try it because at the end of the day, it puts more money or puts money back in my pocket. So.
Yeah. And I guess that, the good news now is with, not good news, but in kind of a result of COVID is the, people working from home and not having to be within an hour or so driving distance of their office.
Yeah.
So that's really opened up a lot of markets that people wouldn't have considered, a year or two ago. Yeah. So I see a lot of migration to maybe like Sacramento County. A lot of people are just saying, hey, it doesn't matter where I live, right? I can work from home. I can work remotely. So that's an opportunity too. So just, with the way that our society has evolved in the workspace, focus, just look at those options. Don't say, oh, I can only live in the Bay Area, because that's not necessarily true.
Right. And another viewer asked a question that kind of goes along with the idea. This is their question. How likely are you to find or fulfill a request if someone came to you asking, find me a house that is under $1,000 a month and is available to move in right away? This is a stretch.
So how much?
1,000.
Oh, you know what? I think I would have to, say, let's look at the numbers and let's look at what's in the market and see what's out there. And then I think, looking at what they can afford based on that number, let's see what's out there. Maybe some things work. Maybe you have to move further out from the Bay Area. It's not impossible, right? But it depends on what kind of job you have, what your family commitments are.
Yeah.
All those things come into play. But, again, I really do think that just looking at the numbers up front and getting a real understanding of how that may or may not impact you is absolutely the first step.
Okay. And then now, while we're talking about steps, what would be your top 5 suggestions for anyone who is getting ready to look to buy a home within 2 years? And I know you have a book, and I wonder if your book.
Oh yeah, I could
those suggestions.
So I have this book that I published, and you can see, probably not, it's kind of ghosted out, but it's called Guide to Purchasing a Home, and it's a free copy. I wrote this, I published this actually just to help people kind of go through the process. But I think first and foremost, what are your wants and needs? In terms of, what are your goals in life? Where are you? What stage are you in your life? Are you not certain as to where you're going to be living in the next 2 to 3 years, or do you know? So just, keeping your options open, and, planning is everything. If you plan and you can envision something, it generally will happen. Right. So, but, in terms of preparing yourself financially, I think you hit it right on the head. I mean, just look at, what are your financial capabilities? Are you, do you have a lot of debt, or is there, things that you need to talk to your mortgage broker about to kind of understand what your capabilities are as a buyer? And just being, realistic. because like you said, sometimes people have these grandiose ideas of what they want versus what they can actually afford. And it's just being smart. I'm not saying not to have dreams, but to be realistic and try to be just aware of how you might be competitive in this market. When we say seller's market, people go, well, what does that really mean? It basically comes down to how many months of inventory are there in the market. So for example, on a neutral market, it's about 6 months of inventory. So it's neither a buyer's market nor a seller's market. If there's less inventory, so there's fewer homes on the market, that's a seller's market because the sellers are in the driver's seat. So understanding that and we have been in a seller's market, I can't even recall. I mean, California is just, limited number of homes and the sellers really drive the negotiations. So just being, understanding what their motivations are and kind of catering to that, put yourself in, why would that seller pick me to buy if they had 10 offers? What would make me the top offer? And they would choose me over everyone else. So, I don't know if those are 5 points, but I think that's, I think that's probably what I would suggest you do is just, find somebody that you trust, find a real estate agent that's willing to listen to you and, give you some ideas as to what the market is offering buyers right now. So, if you like a certain area, find somebody who is willing to help you and, not just trying to get a real estate commission, but really sincerely wanting to help you. And you'll know that when you talk to them, you'll know if there's a connection, but you want to make sure that you have that relationship with your real estate agent. It's very important.
Okay. And then with this journey, this question posed 2 years out, and I understand brokers and real estate agents don't get paid until the house is closed.
Right.
So is it annoying to brokers and real estate agents for someone to come 2 years prior to prep, to figure out what my numbers are right now, to figure out what is my realistic capabilities? Is that annoying to you guys, or is that
it depends.
Okay.
Yeah, it depends because some real estate agents are in it for the short haul. I'm not. I'm in it for the long haul. And I've been working with your family for, I don't know, 10 years.
Yes, you've seen me grow up. Yes.
I did, yeah. Yes. But I mean, okay, so maybe you're not ready now, but you will be ready. And you have friends and family who are ready now. So I don't look at it as, I'm just spending time with Priscilla and she's either going to buy or sell, a house today. I look at it as, I'm helping Priscilla when the time comes, when it's right, she's going to come and call me. And in the meantime, I may get referrals from friends and family, so, it just really depends. Yeah. But I think, there are some, if somebody really, doesn't know what they want, there's a lot of resources that I provide people. Number one, I'll give them my book. It's really a good way to kind of, it's the short read, but it's just a good thing to just organize your thoughts and kind of decide, is this time the right time for me? So no, I don't, it doesn't bother me. I'd love it if you bought a house, like I showed you one house and you bought it, that would be great. But that doesn't happen a lot.
Got it. And just from my experience, you guys, we literally took a year and about a half.
Yeah.
We were going to multiple homes. Debbie was so kind enough to always be next to her phone. I don't know how she did it because I was annoying. I was one of those annoying buyers, but she really was so kind and patient with me. And how she talked about referrals. I had family members come with me to go house looking. So there'd be times that I'll have a cousin or auntie, uncle that would join me as we go look at some homes. So without even like referring, saying, yeah, use Debbie. They just saw me actually interacting with Debbie and how she took care of me. I will never forget. We went to go look at homes in Cordelia. I think it's next to Green Valley. And then my auntie and my best friend came, and then we got lunch that day because we were out all day.
Oh, that's right. Yes. That was fun.
And that was so much fun. And I remember that lunch was pivotal. That lunch was when I knew I had the right real estate agent for me. You spoke
that's great. Thank you.
And so much hope and encouragement when I was really down and out. I was ready to give up. I was over it. I'll never forget when I got home, my best friend called me and she's just like, when I get ready, I'm going to use her just because how.
Oh, that is wonderful. That's wonderful. You know, I mean, it's stressful. It's stressful to buy a house. You know, stressful. Do you want to have, like I said earlier, you know, you want to have a good team. You want to be confident that you're being presented in the best light when you're buying a home. You know, so yeah, I remember calling you and you're like, I don't know, this is the right time for me. I think and I'm like, hang in there. I don't want to hear this. We've come this far, right?
Yes, it was so much. And then as we were in my journey, I was able to save money. Do you have a recommendation of how much? I know as I was getting ready to buy a home, I thought like, oh, I needed this huge lump sum of money to be able to be, I'm ready to buy a home. If you don't mind just shedding some light on that, I don't want to say negative, but like that crippling thought of like, you need to have $100,000 in cash to get in the door of a home. Or,
well, I mean, ideally, you know, it depends on the type of financing you get, but I don't want to talk too much about financing, but let's in general terms, you know, if 20% is like ideal to put down, but there are a lot of programs out there that offer, you know, less than 5% down. And some programs, depending, you know, maybe some veterans out there, it's zero down. So, you know, so don't be discouraged. I mean, there are hero programs where you can get rebates from the lenders on cost, you know, because of cost of financing. But I mean, just you know, it costs you nothing to get pre-qualified. You know, it's just a little bit of time, putting, you know, organize your thing. But once you've done it, right? So you don't have to keep repeating it over and over again. So you've got all your finances in order, and you know, you never know. And also there's, you know, there are parents and grandparents and uncles and aunts that may want to invest with you. You know, that's another source of a down payment that you may not have thought of. Mm-hmm. And I know a lot of us are independent. We don't want to burden our families, but you know, it's an investment. I mean, what are they earning in the stock market these days? Or what are they earning in CDs? I mean, the returns on that are minimal compared to the potential that they could earn in investing with you in a home. So, you know, it's possible. Anything's possible. You just have to reach out. Yeah.
Wow. The question, just to wrap up, because I don't want to hold you forever. I appreciate we'll probably have to bring you back. I'm for sure link your book in the description below.
Okay.
A couple questions that I do want to get through before you leave. One question is, not saying my city, we know we're in Napa County. What is the transfer tax rate in my city upon transferring the title? And how would someone find this in their particular city? And why is that information important?
Yeah, I think, well, transfer tax is what you pay when you sell the property. So the easiest way to find out what your closing costs are would be to call a local title company in the county where your home's located, and they will be able to tell you what the taxes are. Some cities have, on top of the county transfer tax, they have city transfer tax. Okay. For example, Vallejo has additional city transfer tax. So you want to call your local title company escrow officer. You could get that probably from your real estate agent as well. And yeah, and then that would be the best source. But they'd be able to help, and they'd be able to also tell you, what's customary in that area. So sometimes the buyer pays for the transfer tax, sometimes it's shared equally, sometimes the seller, pays it, just whatever is the custom.
Okay. And is there any special reason anyone should know that?
I think when you're selling a house, I think you want to know what your net after your closing costs are.
Okay.
Because how do you compare offers that say, for example, you have a buyer who's going to pay your transfer tax, and it could be could be like a few $1,000s versus somebody who wants you to pay the transfer tax. So you just want to be able to compare apples and apples when you're looking at offers.
Good to know. And also, speaking of closing costs, that is actually a big amount that when we just talk about down payment, I didn't consider it in my view. Mm-hmm. I know we talk about some programs that offer 5% down or 3.5% down. Mm-hmm. I found it in our journey that the closing cost pretty much mirrors that 3.5 or 5%. So like if my 3.5% down payment is 18 grand, my closing cost sometimes pretty much mirrors that, being another 18 grand. Like how would you encourage or educate someone to have their down payment and closing costs like there, as far as prior to actually selecting a home, prior to selecting being like, so you have a down payment this much, but you should also have a closing cost of this much?
Well, I think that's, again, what Tom and I actually encouraged him to do this because I was getting these questions a lot. At the end of the day, how much money do I have to bring to the table at the closing? And so what we call a purchase power matrix is what we created, or Tom created it. And it kind of basically outlines, based on your down payment, based on your credit score, based on your income and, debt and all that taken into consideration, what can you afford and what are the costs that are associated with that? So it's kind of like your, what we call a net sheet, an estimated net sheet for not only for the seller when they're selling, but also for the buyer.
It was very helpful in my journey. I appreciate that.
Sure. Yeah. And, because I get that all the time. It's like, well, you're giving me all these numbers, but what do I need? What do I need to write the check for?
Yes.
Right?
What is the exact amount that you need to have in the bank account so that everything can clear? Yeah.
Yeah. And so the title company can help you do that. But I think just in the process, when you're first starting to look, it's important to know if you adjust any of those variables, this is what's going to be the bottom line, for you. That's why we created that matrix. So
awesome.
Great tool.
Yes, it is. And so our last question before you get out of here, you sell homes as well as help buyers.
Yes.
So if an entrepreneur in the industry, say like a home stager or a painter, wanted to get on your like networking sheet of like, anytime you have a house that you're going to really sell and you need a painter, that's the person you call. How would someone go about making that connection with you? And then what is the industry standard for making those connections? Or do you have a resident home stager or a resident painter?
I tend to give more than one recommendation because, people always have a bad day. I may be working with one contractor and then, all of a sudden something happens and they're no longer, responding to me. So I'd like to give the client 3 or 4 different options. So if there are painters or contractors out there that, want to get on a referral list, just give me a call and, I'll make sure that we, pass that name out. Okay. It's all the, the experience that you've had with people. I can't make that decision for the client. The client always has to feel confident in that team member, so it may not be somebody that I've worked with before, but, I have had, people ask me for referrals and, I have my office, we have 2,200 agents in Northern California. That's, a lot of people with a lot of relationships. So all I can do is I'm a group me all the time. And if I need to have somebody, inspect a chimney or something, I can send that out and I will get recommendations from the agents. So for you to choose, So.
Got it. Okay. All righty. Well, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Joining me today. I hope to see you again soon, and maybe
yes, definitely. I can't wait till we start the actual construction. I hope that we can get face to face and see what's going on. That's going to be really cool.
Out in the midst
really cool.
Yes, I agree. So thank you everyone for joining my channel, The Pila Lamb, this Wednesday. I hope you guys enjoyed. If you have more questions, please feel free to drop them down below this video. Also, I will list out Debbie's information in the description box. So if you wanted to reach out to maybe have her and Tom like do the pre-approval process, just so you guys can see your numbers. Maybe you're not ready to buy a house yet, but you can see your numbers to see what you guys are working with. You guys definitely reach out to her for that. Also, I have in the description box her book. You guys, it's free. All you have to do is go click purchase, and it's free, and you get one. You lose nothing, but you gain knowledge, and knowledge is power. So, all right, you guys, I will see you Wednesday. Thank you so much, Debbie, for being here.
You're welcome.
Yes.